The What to Read Next podcast helps you build a TBR of future favorite books. In each episode, Lori and Mean interviews authors and book influencers to recommend books they loved for you to pick up today. If you're an avid reader, always looking for your next great read, then the show's for you. Hi, Tara. Welcome to What to Read Next podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I started writing, I think I started writing my first book in 2020 when I was stuck at home and kind of not sleeping and felt like I'd read everything. I have 2 kids, 2 dogs, 12 chickens. I'm married to the guy I've been with since I was a senior in high school. Yeah.
I love this. So I have so much to unpack. So how did you end up getting chickens? I think that's going to be the first question, the chicken question.
Yes, we bought property when we lived down in a subdivision a little ways away, and then we bought property and we started building our house. And when we were doing that, we lived up the hill on a ranch. And even we lived on my mom's property for a while, and she had a bunch of chickens and goats and all that. And we just realized that the chicken process was actually not so hard to take care of them, and the undertaking, and they're funny. And also my family just goes through a ton of eggs, so we figured it would be worth our investment, and it so far has been.
Especially in today's world where the eggs are just going
I know. I feel like we've got literally little gold nuggets every day.
You're like, it's amazing.
Yes. We're homesteaders.
Yeah. I love this. All right. So shout out while you're writing. So you started writing in 2020. Were you did you had ideas of writing beforehand? Or was it something?
Yeah, I just so before 2020, I actually didn't read contemporary romance. I had been, I was, raised on Harry Potter and Twilight. That was my generation. And so I was really a romantasy gal. And I picked up but then I got really sick of everything I was reading. I was sick of the world-ending foe, I always say, because it felt a little too realistic, but not, because nobody in our world had magic so that we could get out of our houses and my kids could go back to school and all that. So it was just kind of, and yeah, it was scary, especially at first when everything was pretty unknown. So I read everything and I still wasn't sleeping. I went through this phase where I binged Yellowstone and Ted Lasso. And in combination with that, and I had this dream where my husband left me, and it just I just started typing away. I felt like I'd read one contemporary and I loved the humor and everything in it. And then I'd read another one, like The Simple Wild, where I loved the depth and kind of the women's fiction element to it. But then I loved having, dual POV. So I was kind of like, meh, I'll just I just started dabbling my own. I never thought anything of it. I never thought I would do anything with it. And in fact, I let it sit for 7 or 8 months. And my husband didn't even know I did it. So, and I told my friend at a Friendsgiving we were having, and after a lot of wine, I was like, so I did this thing. And right then and there, my friends started reading it from the Google Docs app or whatever on my phone.
Yeah.
And one of my friends happened to be a bookstagrammer, and she said, you have to figure this out. You have to try to get this published. And so I wasn't going to go through the traditional publishing process. I knew myself, and I knew that I just didn't know enough about it to begin with. And I felt like I'd face one rejection and I would be like, nope, never doing this again.
Yeah.
And so I put it out. And it was, I just figured I'm going to slide into a couple people's DMs. I had started my own little book account because I was reading so much. And again,
Yeah.
at the behest of my friend, she was like, you read more than most people I know right now. So, and I think she was getting sick of me asking her for recommendations all the time. So she said, you need to consult the online community. So I had started that, and I just sent a few DMs, and one person picked it up. She loved it. She started talking about it, and then it did fairly well. And I think that's why I put that out I put Rookbound out November 2021. And then I started writing Funny Feelings in January of 22 and put that out May 1st. And so from there, it all kind of, Funny Feelings was definitely my breakout book.
Yeah.
And I just kept doing it.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing the journey, because sometimes people are like, especially this, like the pandemic projects that we accumulated, like there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of things. And I love the fact you were like, I'm not even going to face the traditional publish. I'm just going to give it a try. And like, it's snowball. Like it's just, it's one step at a time, and it doesn't make it's not linear steps. It's just like, you just have to take whatever action you have to take and just let it be.
Exactly. That's exactly how it happened, how it all happened for me. And especially because, I mean, there's definitely things I would do differently knowing some stuff now with my first book. I, kind of tripped into it and was a little clumsy, but I am sort of glad, just because I had to learn, I guess, a few things along the way. But I also, especially with your first book, I think that there's something where your friends and family can tell you a million times that they love it, it's wonderful and all that, but I just had to know. I had to ask other people, do you like my stories and the way I tell them? And I had to get that feedback and everything. And then once I had that confirmation, it kind of gave me the confidence to keep going.
Yeah, I love this. And so let's talk about the breakout hit first, and then start with the co-op. Tell us the elevator pitch for those books. Yeah.
For which one?
For Funny Feelings, and then the
Funny Feelings. That, like, you want me just to tell you what quick pitch about them?
Quick pitch about them, because it's like
Funny Feelings is about. I read this morning from somebody that tagged me in it, but if you want to read a story about a woman that isn't afraid to take up space with her profession, with her career, and just with who she is, being, she's not afraid. She's a stand-up comedian. So, and there's a lot of stigma around stand-up comedy, and it's not for everybody. And there's a lot of stuff that's said for shock value and just for joke factor, but it doesn't mean that the people themselves that are creating this entertainment or this art are not some of the kindest and sweetest and real human beings who would, do anything for the people they love. And that's kind of what I wanted to show with two comedians in that case. Funny Feelings is my exploration of Friends to Lovers, where there was stuff at stake. And that was the reason why they hadn't taken another step away from their friendship and towards romance until they're asked to fake date and for publicity. But I really just wanted to write a story that explored that and explored two people that were really respectful and communicative with each other, but there were still stakes. Like, they had a career. Meyer was her manager, so there's a position of power element, and she had a relationship with his daughter that was also very important to all of them.
Yeah. And more real and more ensues,
Yes.
So, and then the co-op is your latest release. So what was the writing process for the co-op? And like, now that, Now that
Yeah.
you know, it's the third book.
Yes. I actually started writing the co-op before I wrote Funny Feelings. I had started with it, I think even before I actually put out Rootbound.
Mhm.
And it underwent, like, it completely changed from the original
Mhm.
story that it was. But I really wanted to write what it would be like for people that didn't get along, that had reasons to be wary of each other and be angry with each other, having to build a house together and renovate a property together, and in the process, along the way, grow closer. Renovations and construction projects are notorious for wreaking havoc on a relationship. I mentioned earlier, my husband and I built our house, and there were definitely some dark times, and so I thought that it would provide a really funny, interesting take on like a marriage of convenience. Say you're bound together by these
Mhm.
obligations, by literally this roof over your head, and these things that you have motivation to finish, you have motivation to work together to get through, but it's still not always going to be easy. And I thought it would be really interesting to tell that in reverse
Mhm.
and show them growing closer together and falling back in love over that process. It was important to me to write characters that weren't super easy, and to love at first and to be lovable to each other too. It was a different process than writing Funny Feelings, but they're just really special to me too. So
I love this. And so let's chat some book recommendations. What kind of books
mhm.
do you tend to read? You mentioned you might read some contemporary later on, but mostly romantasy, So,
Mhm.
what kind of books what kind of books do you recommend our listeners to pick up, actually?
Oh gosh, I adore, now I can't get enough of a good contemporary, that especially, I think every book has its purpose, and I specifically reach for really funny books sometimes when I don't want emotional turmoil. And so, but I do like when there's some depth and a little bit of pain, or at least a little bit of angst, and that you can take something away from it and it'll stick with you for a little while. Some of
Mhm.
my favorite books, uh, recently, a romantasy book I really loved last year that I think is still going to continue taking off is The Serpent and the Wings of Night.
Yeah.
It was an excellent, excellent romantasy. I loved that. Um, I love both of Hannah Bonham Young's books. She released two books last year. They've got great romance, but there's definitely some depth and good representation in them. The writing is lovely. I loved, um, gosh, I always recommend Kay Tucker. I love her books.
Mhm.
I love The Simple Wild is like probably, one of my favorite books. Um, adore Sarah Hogle and her writing.
Mhm.
You Deserve Each Other was the first book I read last year or the year before. I forget. I think I read it like over New Year's
Mhm.
Eve and New Year's Day. Um, and it was, I was snort laughing into my Kindle. Like I had it on paperback, and then I had went and bought it on my phone so that I could lay in my bed and read it. And
Yeah.
I was dying laughing, and also choked up because there was so much, just it was such a good story for what it's like to get when you get lost in a relationship. Like, you can have all the right pieces and you can really love each other, but life gets in the way, and it kind of makes you form all these little small resentments, and you don't always realize when they're building up. And just watching people fall back in love is
Mhm.
such a, like, realistic but hard thing to tell.
Yeah.
And oh, I love that book. I could go on and on about that book. I love it.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I read The Serpent and the Wings of the Night, then I went back to Carissa's Brabant
Yes.
backlist, and I've been like loving it. It's been like such a nice, like she does such a great world building and romance and like slow burn, and you just like
Yes.
you're rooting for them, but there's action. It's just so good.
They're
And
great.
you
I can't wait to read her backlist. I have been in kind of back in the writing trenches, but I got to read some stuff lately. Just it's a little bit harder to
yeah.
be a reader and a writer, and I didn't realize that that would happen. But
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And You Deserve Each Other is just top
yeah,
notch.
it's a
Enemies to
master
Lovers.
class
Yeah.
in rom-com with
Yeah.
there, but there's so much depth there too. But the
Yeah.
humor is just perfect. I love
Yeah.
it.
So, tell us where we can find you online.
Where we can find me online?
Yep.
I am on Amazon, so you can find my books on Kindle Unlimited. I'm on Barnes and Noble. Pretty much anywhere you can get books online, you can order mine now. Bookshop.org, I think that one is the one that a lot of people get from international, but yep, Amazon and Target now too. Target has them online, so that was exciting.
That's exciting. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Tara, for being in the show.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with friends, subscribe, rate, and review the show. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. For a list of books mentioned and other romance recommendations, please visit whattoreadnextblog.com. Did you know you can purchase audiobooks directly from your favorite local bookstore? With Libro.fm, you can pick up more than 250,000 audiobooks, including bestsellers and recommendations from real booksellers. You'll get the same audiobooks at the same price as the largest audiobook company, you know the name, but you'll be part of a different story, one that supports your local community. If you're new to audiobooks, there's a perfect way to squeeze into more reading into your busy life. Listen with the free Libro.fm app while you do your chores, walk your dog, relax at home. The What to Read Next podcast has a special offer for our listeners. Get 2 audiobooks on Libro.fm for the price of 1 with your first month of membership. Use code What to Read Next. This offer is only valid for new members in Canada and the US. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.